Let's listen to Sacha Baron Cohen speaking to the Anti-Defamation League. And because it's so long, I am going to speed it up a little bit. I'm going to go to 1.5 speed. If you can't understand it, fuck you. I'm not listening to 24 minutes of this shit. I got to speed it up somehow.
Thank you very much. Thanks for everyone who stood up. Unnecessary, but very flattering. Thank you, Jonathan, for your very kind words. Thank you, the Anti-Defamation League, for this recognition and your work.
Anti-Defamation League fucking sucks, by the way.
Work in fighting racism, hate, and bigotry. And to be clear, when I say racism, hate, and bigotry, I'm not referring to the names of Stephen Miller's Labradoodles.
Who the fuck is Stephen Miller? Some kind of easy target somewhere, probably. Who the fuck is that? Stephen Miller. I'm looking it up. White House advisor Stephen Miller. All right, I guess he's someone in the Trump White House. Cool.
Now, I realize that some of you may be thinking, what the hell is a comedian doing speaking at a conference like this? I certainly am.
Whoa.
I've spent most of the past 2 decades in character. In fact, this is the first ever time that I've stood up and given a speech as my least popular character, Sacha Baron Cohen. And I have to confess, it is terrifying. I realize that my presence here may also be unexpected for another reason. At times, some critics have said my comedy risks reinforcing old stereotypes. The truth is, I've been passionate about challenging bigotry and intolerance throughout my life. As a teenager in England, I marched against the fascist National Front and to abolish apartheid. As an undergraduate, I traveled around America and wrote my thesis about the civil rights movement with the help of the archives of the ADL. And as a comedian...
Let's just take a moment to applaud. Wow. He stood up against bigotry, y'all. Come on. Round of applause, my friends. Come on. Woo! Down with bigotry. Down with bigotry. This motherfucker right here. This motherfucker right here. This motherfucker right here. He stood up against the bigots and the racists and the hate mongers in our society. In all of Western society. And he fucking did the right thing. He marched with shit. He stood up against shit. He did shit, motherfucker. What is wrong with his hair? Hey, there's nothing wrong with his hair. Don't be a bigot. Don't be no fucking bigot, bitch. All right, come on.
Comedian, I've tried to use my characters to get people to let down their guard and reveal what they actually believe, including their own prejudice. Now, I'm not going to claim that everything I've done has been for a higher purpose. Yes, some of my comedy, okay, probably half my comedy has been absolutely juvenile. And the other half completely puerile. But I admit there was nothing particularly enlightening about me as Borat from Kazakhstan, the first fake news journalist, running through a conference of mortgage brokers while I was completely naked. But when Borat was able to get an entire bar in Arizona to sing, "Throw the jewel down the well," it did reveal people's indifference to anti-Semitism. When, as Bruno, the gay fashion reporter from Austria, I started kissing a man in a cage fight in Arkansas, nearly starting a riot, it showed the violent potential of homophobia. And when disguised as an ultra-woke developer, I proposed building a mosque in one rural community, prompting a resident to proudly admit, "I am racist against Muslims." It showed the growing acceptance of Islamophobia. That's why I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you. Today, around the world, demagogues appeal to our worst instincts. Conspiracy...
I mean, that's fine. I have no problem with this part of the speech. You know, if you want to use your comedy or your artistic ability or your, whatever the fuck you have going for you, whether you be a writer, a comedian, a dramatist, a poet, a visual artist of some kind, if you want to use that talent and ability towards the end of promoting your own sort of political ideas or social ideas or exposing bigotry or whatever the fuck you want to do with it, or promoting bigotry if you want, that's fine. That's your purview. It's your fucking talent. It's your fucking ability. Use it however you see fit.
Theories once confined to the fringe are going mainstream. It's as if the age of reason, the era of evidential argument is...
Wait, what is this idea of like, oh, well, ideas once confined to the fringe are going mainstream? As if, I mean, when were these ideas ever fringe, man? Like, go watch a movie from the 70s or the 80s or the 50s, or, like, just go dip your toe in any other era of popular culture. Racism, historically, just like looking at modern society, like looking at the 20th and 21st centuries, like racism and bigotry and homophobia and all that stuff were way more acceptable fucking 50 years ago, 30 years ago, even 20 years ago than they are today. So I don't know what this narrative is of like this, things that used to be so fringe, now they're just accepted. Now they're just accepted. Like Bugs Bunny, there was a Bugs Bunny cartoon where he fights a little fucking black caricature and he dresses up as a southern plantation master. Bugs Bunny does. And the black character's like, oh, please don't whip me, massa. That's a thing. That exists. There's some pretty racist shit in our history. There was a fucking movie in the 80s called Soul Man that entirely centers around a dude who dresses in blackface so he can get a minority scholarship to fucking college. I mean, come on. This is not new shit. It's not like, we had racism on the ropes but in recent times, oh no, it's coming back, the revenge of the racism. These are it's like racism is at its most, it's like the height of social unacceptability at this point. It's to the point where, Roseanne Barr says something like one tweet that could vaguely be construed as racist. That probably wasn't, it probably didn't even have racist intent behind it if you actually look at the facts of the fucking case. Something that's incidentally could be construed as racist is enough to instantly lose her a job, instantly lose her a lucrative fucking television contract, despite the fact that she's got the #1 rated comedy on fucking television. There was a guy, a wrestling guy, Jim Cornette, I think, who just recently, he made a joke about Ethiopians. He made a joke about someone being so tough that they could drive around Ethiopia with a bag of food of some kind. I don't remember. There was some specific food, but that was enough to get him fired from his job. Because he made an off-color joke about Ethiopians. So we live in a time when like you step a tiny, insignificant little toe on a line on the racial thing, and you're just totally fucking destroyed. Destroy your career, destroy your life, destroy everything you've worked for because you said something that someone else construed as racist. But we're supposed to believe that this is like the pinnacle of racism at this time, and that, these ideas that were once consigned to the fringe. When was that, Sacha? When was that? These ideas once consigned to the fringe are now making this horrible resurgence. Oh my God. Bullshit. False narrative. Doesn't add up. The facts don't fucking add up to the, whatever.
Ending. And now knowledge is increasingly delegitimized and scientific consensus is dismissed. Democracy, which depends on shared truths, is in retreat, and autocracy, which depends on shared lies, is on the march. Hate crimes are surging, as are murderous attacks on religious and ethnic minorities. Now, what do all these dangerous trends have in common? I'm just a comedian and an actor, I'm not a scholar, but one thing is pretty clear to me. All this hate and violence is being facilitated by a handful of internet companies that amount to the greatest propaganda machine in history.
Citation needed? Maybe you were going to get it. Okay.
Greatest propaganda machine in history. Let's think about it. Facebook, YouTube, and Google, Twitter, and others, they reach billions of people. The algorithms these platforms depend on deliberately amplify the type of content that keeps users engaged. Stories that appeal to our baser instincts and that trigger outrage and fear. It's why YouTube recommended videos by the conspiracist Alex Jones billions of times. It's why fake...
yeah, and then they then they banned him from their platform entirely, right? So, I mean, this idea that, wow, like it's Twitter and Facebook and YouTube Like, oh my God, it's these platforms. It's got to be these platforms that are the problem. No, it's not the platforms. It's that people who were not empowered to speak out in any way, shape, or form and had no sort of voice in the broader conversation of this country, all of a sudden did. So all of like racism was never fringe. Like, okay, so popular culture started to kind of bury the cat turd of racism and bigotry and say, no, we're going to kind of push that to the fringes, like you're talking about. But, it never went away in the American household. There was still plenty of dudes sitting on their couch blaming the Mexicans or the blacks. Blacks isn't the word they typically use, by the way. Blaming the blacks or the Mexicans or whoever for all their problems, right? And those people, for a while, they didn't see their point of view reflected in popular culture at all. They didn't have any, they never saw their point of view. But then when you invent social media, all of a sudden, these people have a place where they can go and say, I feel this way. I dislike these other races. And then some other racist somewhere eventually sees it and, a thumbs up. Good for you. I also hate people who aren't the same color as me. Different sexual orientations, I don't like those either. Gender identity, bullshit. I hate that as well. And so all these people that, it's kind of weird to say that racists were marginalized, but really they were. All these marginalized racists who, for the longest time, didn't have, it's not like they didn't have their voice at all in society, because obviously to some extent they did. But like popular culture had kind of, isolated them to some degree. But at the advent of social media, you're not going to be like, the whole point is, now everybody's part of the conversation. And when everybody's part of the conversation, there's going to be racists who are part of the conversation. And it's going to turn out that there's a lot more racists than you thought there were. And there's a lot more homophobes than you thought there were. And there's a lot more people that hate transgender people than you thought there were. And that's not YouTube's fault. That's not Twitter's fault. That's none of these platforms' fault. They're just accurately reflecting the reality of this fucking country and this planet. These people haven't been brainwashed. I mean, maybe some have, I don't know. But by and large, they haven't been brainwashed. Oh, I'm a racist now. I was a totally woke person who was, tolerant and accepting of others. And then I got on Twitter, and next thing I know, hey, where do I sign up to join the KKK, my friend? That didn't happen. All that happened was the racists found each other. That's what happened.
News outperforms real news because studies show that lies spread faster than truth. And it's no surprise that the greatest propaganda machine...
Yeah, because you can make a lie as interesting as you want. I mean, of course lies spread fast. It's not that it's a lie that makes it spread faster. It's the fact that you can cater a lie to anything. You can always make a lie sound cool. You can always target a lie to a particular demographic. Reality oftentimes is a fucking drag. So of course a lie spreads faster. Because you can tailor it. You can make it whatever you want. You can fucking have it confirm whatever group you're targeting's set of biases and shit.
In history has spread the oldest conspiracy theory in history, the lie that Jews are somehow dangerous. As one headline put it, just think what Goebbels could have done with Facebook. On the internet...
I mean, he seemed like he did pretty well without it. I mean, I seem to recall that Goebbels accomplished a lot of anti-Semitic shit without ever having a Facebook, I don't know. I mean, I feel like the way that these social media platforms are, I think that Goebbels probably would have been censored off of Facebook in pretty short order. Get on Facebook, death to the Jews, banned. Like that's where that goes, right? So I don't know what you're talking about there.
everything can appear equally legitimate. Breitbart resembles the BBC. The fictitious protocols of the Elders of Zion look as valid as an ADL report. And the rantings of a lunatic seem as credible as the findings of a Nobel Prize winner. We have lost, it seems, a shared sense of basic facts upon which democracy depends. When I, as...
Yeah, whatever, dude. No, I mean, what are you talking about? You keep referencing this bygone era when it's just like everybody was just, oh, yeah, we're all about facts and there's no one's lying. I mean, that's bullshit, dude. The mainstream press lies to us all the time in this country. I mean, look no further than the issue. I mean, like, it's a famous fucking case, and people mention it all the time. I don't mean to belabor the fucking point or whatever, but, like, just look at William Randolph Hearst and his war against cannabis, you know, where he didn't want to compete with the hemp industry. So he propagated he used his position as the owner of several newspapers, some of the most popular and well-circulated papers in the United States of America. And he used his papers to lie to the American people and spread fear about marijuana, which eventually led to it being outlawed. And he preyed upon people's racism and bigotry. He said, all these blacks and Mexicans are smoking this new drug, marijuana, that makes them go nuts. And it makes them rape white women, and it makes them steal, and it makes them a dangerous threat to society. And it was all bullshit. It was all lies. But it didn't matter. Because it was just one dude who controlled the narrative, who controlled information. I mean, I think if anything, the fact that we now have social media and that there's all these various sources competing is a lot better than in the day when there was just a few information brokers out there, who were just as likely to be corrupted by their power as anyone is today. And at least now there's ways to push back against the narrative. If there's some fucking terrible article, someone can fact check it. And yeah, maybe someone who wants to believe what the article has to say is going to disregard the fact checker. I mean, anybody who's ever argued with a Trump supporter knows that if you point out something bad Trump has done, it's just instantly dismissed as fake news. He's like, oh, it's just fake news. Just a bunch of lies. Trump never did nothing wrong. He's a good man. He's just wonderful. Anybody who says anything against Trump is obviously a liar. So yeah, I mean, to some extent, people do have this like choose your own adventure approach to reality at this point. But honestly, it's better than letting a bunch of some rich fucking newspaper magnate control the fucking narrative just because he's a fucking billionaire, which we also have going on to this day. So this idea that there are these vaunted institutions where we should trust the information we're being presented with, and everybody, all the big corporate media shit that's let's bow before that monolith because that's reliable and that's true. But the outsiders who are presenting, information that the mainstream doesn't want you to hear, they're all liars. They're all bad. What a simple fucking worldview. The fact of the matter is that both the independent media is lying to you, people on social media are lying to you, people in the mainstream media are lying to you. And it's your job as an individual to suss the fucking truth out. And you know what? You are 100% guaranteed to fail at that task. You are 100% guaranteed to fail because you're a human being, and within your head there's a set of biases, and things that confirm those biases you are way more likely to believe. Even if you're aware of that fact, you're still likely to believe things that you're biased towards. I've fallen for it. Who the fuck hasn't? I've fallen for bullshit stories that fucking preyed upon my biases. There was this fake news story about this feminist that was going around pouring bleach on dudes for man-spreading. It was a Russian story, I think. And I believed it because I've seen the feminists complain about man-spreading, and I don't like fucking modern-day feminism. So I believed the story. Turned out to be total bullshit. And I had to be like, hey, I got duped. There was a story just a little while ago about that chick who directed the new Charlie's Angels movie. I can't remember her fucking name. There was a story that said that basically she called men. He said men are just too stupid to understand feminist entertainment. She never said that. She said some things that were kind of in that vein, but she never said that. It was a fake quote. But I bought it. I just bought it because I'm like, yeah, I hate that bitch. Damn right she said that. And yeah, is there a danger to that? Obviously. But to say that, we were better off in the times of William Randolph Hearst and these monolithic media institutions, sorry, but that's bullshit.
The wannabe gangster Ali G asked the astronaut Buzz Aldrin, what was it like to walk on the sun? The joke worked.
Who laughs at that? It doesn't work. It didn't work for me. Maybe I just have no sense of humor. I don't know. I'm more laughing at how unfunny I find that joke than I am at that joke, because I was totally stone-faced for the joke. But I'm laughing at the audience that actually laughs at that terrible joke.
Worked because we, the audience, shared the same facts. If you believe the moon landing was a hoax, the joke doesn't work.
Well, I don't believe the moon. I believe the moon landing happened. I believe that Buzz Aldrin did walk on the moon. And yet, still, somehow, your brilliant joke just didn't manage to amuse me. Strange.
Borat got that bar in Arizona to agree that Jews control everybody's money and they never give it back. The joke worked because the audience shared the fact that the depiction of Jews as miserly is a conspiracy theory originating in the Middle Ages. But when, thanks to social media, conspiracies take hold, it is easier for hate groups to recruit, easier for foreign intelligence agencies to interfere in our elections, and easier for a country like Myanmar to commit genocide against the Rohingya.
I mean, once again, citation needed. Citation needed. What do you mean? How do you know that? How do you know that anything? Where's the causal link between those things? Because last I checked, anti-Semitism has flourished in various. There's been so many pogroms and fucking genocides against the Jews throughout history, long before there was any internet. I mean, you just said yourself that the depiction of Jews as miserly is something that started in the Middle Ages. Well, we got from the Middle Ages to well into the 20th century with no internet and no social media, and yet anti-Semitism persisted that entire fucking time. So, once again, what are you talking about, man? What the fuck are you talking about?
Now, it's actually quite shocking how easy it is to turn conspiracy thinking into violence. In my last show, Who is America?, I found an educated, normal guy who'd held down a good job, but who, on social media, repeated many of the conspiracy theories that President Trump, using Twitter, has spread more than 1,700 times to his 67 million Twitter followers. The president even tweeted that he was considering designating Antifa, who are anti-fascists who march against the far right, as a terror organization. So, disguised as an Israeli anti-terrorism expert, Colonel Eran Morad, yalla, let's go. Disguised as him, I told my interviewee that at the Women's March in San
all right, come on. I want to make it clear. I don't think Antifa is a terrorist organization. I think if you do think Antifa is a terrorist organization, you've got to be some kind of fucking pussy, because they're not terrifying in the slightest. But, I mean, come on. We've all seen them use violence. They do more than just march. We've seen them with bats. We've seen them with pipes. We've seen them with bike chains. We've seen them attack people. Now, maybe you can say, maybe those people deserve to be attacked. Well, then you're the one promoting violence. So these are not a bunch of cuddly little kittens, okay? There's not just people, we're marching against fascism. Most of what they're marching against, by the way, is a democratically elected fucking leader of our country. So, and I don't like Trump. I think Trump's a piece of shit. And I do think he has some fascistic tendencies. But he's not an outright fascist as of yet, okay? And Antifa are not just innocuously marching against him. They're out there fucking attacking people and doing fucked up shit. And not all of them. I'm sure there's Antifa that are just marching, but, a lot of them are fucking attacking people. Attacking political rivals and having warfare in the streets of Portland. It's like Proud Boys versus Antifa. Let's fucking do battle in the streets, and whatever. But these are not like cuddly little kittens who are just, they're just against fascism and they're just marching against fascism and trying to preserve freedom in this country or whatever the fuck. Bullshit. Terrorists don't have to be terrifying. They just have to want to be terrifying. I mean, well, then you can call them wannabe terrorists at best. I don't even think that Antifa doesn't even seem like their goal is to intimidate. I don't know. I mean, is it? Are they trying to be scary? Because, they're just not even remotely approaching what I'm afraid of on any given day. I mean, like most people that I just see randomly walking down the street are scarier than most of these little, like, wiry, scrawny, underfed, vegan-looking Antifa motherfuckers. I mean, yeah, like, Juggalos are definitely scarier than Antifa. I guess the FBI considers Juggalos a gang, which is also stupid. Like, to me, you can call Antifa, like, when Antifa blows something up or, like, burn down a fucking, like, government building or something, all right, they can be terrorists then. But until, I'm like, as long as they're just like, I got a bike chain, I'm so scrawny I can barely lift it. That's not terrorism. That's fucking unintentional comedy.
San Francisco, Antifa were plotting to put hormones into babies' diapers in order to make them transgender. And this man believed it. I instructed him to plant small devices on 3 innocent people at the march and explained that when he pushed a button, he'd trigger an explosion that would kill them all. They weren't real explosives, of course, but he thought they were. I wanted to see, would he actually do it? The answer was yes. He pushed the button and thought he had actually killed 3 human beings. Voltaire was right when he said, those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. And social media...
All right, so that's pretty crazy, actually. I'll give him that. The fact that he was able to find somebody that he fucking, I'm going to go blow... You put these explosive devices on people, blow them up. If that's all true, and there's no showbiz razzle-dazzle going on, I'll admit, that's a pretty crazy story.
Yeah, lets authoritarians push absurdities to billions of people. Now, in their defense, these social media companies have taken some steps to reduce hate and conspiracies on their platforms, but these steps have been mainly superficial. And I'm talking about this today because I believe that our pluralistic democracies are on a precipice, and in the next 12 months, the role of social media could be determinant. Now, British voters will go to the polls while online conspiracists promote the despicable theory of the Great Replacement, that white Christians are being deliberately replaced by Muslim immigrants. Americans will vote for president while trolls and bots perpetuate the disgusting lie of a Hispanic invasion. And after years of YouTube videos calling climate change a hoax, the United States is on track a year from now to formally withdraw from the Paris Accords. A sewer of bigotry and vile conspiracy theories.
I thought we didn't even enter into the Paris Accords. By the way, I just read a story the other day that says the Paris Accords aren't doing shit. They haven't even slightly slowed down the rate of CO2 saturation in our atmosphere. So it's basically just a totally empty gesture. It doesn't even come close to actually addressing the problem. So it's like, who cares? Symbolic bullshit gesture. It doesn't even begin to actually substantively address the problems of climate change. So who even really gives a fuck? As for this Great Replacement thing and the Mexican invasion thing, I mean, so when I don't know about the British thing. I don't live in Britain, so I don't know about that. But as far as the Mexican thing goes, I mean, I know people who have been genuinely affected by Mexican immigrants because they're willing to work super cheap. So I know a lot of people in my family are in the construction industry. So a lot of the fucking construction now is being done by illegal immigrants who are willing to work for way lower wages. And so they're able to bid much lower on jobs. And so they're driving construction costs down, which for some sectors of the economy is good. If you're a person who wants to build something and you can hire a bunch of cheap Mexican labor to build the thing you want to build, that's great for you, obviously, because you saved a lot of money. But if you are someone who's in the construction industry and you're trying to, feed your family and stuff, and all of a sudden all these, all this cheap labor floods the market, not so good for you, right? So there's people out there who have a genuine fucking grievance with illegal immigrants. I mean, there just are. There's people who, don't get me wrong, like I said, there's certain people who are advantaged by it, and usually it's people who are a little bit higher up on the economic ladder, and there's people who are disadvantaged by it. Now, I think that the fears of Mexican immigrants are trumped up, so to speak, but to say that there's nothing there, to say that there's no real issue whatsoever, I mean, come on. There's a little something there. Let's be real. Let's be honest. And that's not to say that the immigrants who come here looking for work are bad people, or that, I'm not even saying necessarily they need to be stopped. But let's be real that, there's American workers whose lives are impacted by the flooding of cheap labor into markets where they used to be able to make a decent living, and now they no longer can, or it's at least a lot harder to do so.
That threaten our democracy and to some degree our planet. This can't possibly be what the creators of the internet had in mind. I believe that it's time for...
And why are you... I just don't understand. So the main part of your thesis I don't understand is how you're laying the blame for all this shit you're talking about at the feet of the internet. Like... you're kind of acting like there was this non-racist, non-bigoted, utopian society that we'd achieved in the 90s or whatever. But then, people started getting their AOL discs in the mail, logging online. Next thing we knew, racism's back, baby. Like, I don't really feel like that's how it worked.
For a fundamental rethink of social media and how it spreads hate, conspiracies, and lies.
Woo! It's a weird woo moment. Woo! Hate, conspiracies, and lies spread on the internet. Woo! Yeah! Hell yeah! Woo!
Now, last month, however, Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook delivered a major speech that, not surprisingly, warned against new laws and regulations on companies like his. Well, some of these arguments are simply, pardon my French, bullshit. Let's count the ways. First, Zuckerberg tried to portray this whole issue as choices around free expression. That is ludicrous. This is not about limiting anyone's free speech. This is about giving people, including some of the most reprehensible people on earth, the biggest platform in history to reach a third of the planet. Freedom of speech is not freedom of reach. Sadly, there will always be racists, misogynists, anti-Semites, and child abusers. But I think we can all agree that we should not be giving bigots and pedophiles a free platform to amplify their views and target their victims.
I mean, so having access to social media doesn't guarantee you any kind of reach, right? Because, I mean, anybody can go create a Twitter account and go tweet whatever the fuck they want, And by the way, this idea that these are just free-for-all zone, like Facebook, super censorship happy. Google, super censorship happy. Twitter, super censorship happy. The idea that these places are just free-for-all crazy zones where just anything goes, totally false. But even if it were true, like, you're not these platforms don't guarantee you any sort of gigantic reach. I mean, there's how many Twitter accounts are there with like 13 followers? Joined in fucking 2008, tweets every day. 100 fucking people following it, and pretty much none of them following it intently. There's tons of accounts like that. Click on any random Twitter account, and you're probably going to see that the person has, 60 followers, 70 followers, something like that. Probably mostly like a few friends and family, maybe some people they fucking know from the fucking internet forum or fucking someone they play games with or something that follows them on Twitter. Even if they're active on the fucking platform. So this idea that, oh, well, we're just guaranteeing on this huge reach. And the thing with Facebook is, they want, people like Sacha Baron Cohen here want Facebook to fact check every fucking piece of information that's posted on Facebook. Like, how is that even logistically goddamn feasible? Like, do you know how much shit is posted on fucking Facebook every day? Facebook is supposed to have the capacity to fact check everything. And right now, I tried to do an ad for a video I did on, I think it was on the Joker movie. I was like, I think this Joker movie video could actually be popular. I'm going to do some promotion on this on Facebook. Just a small, do a little $40 ad campaign, get it in front of a few new eyeballs. You know what happened? I was told the video was too political. It was too political. Can't advertise that on Facebook. Too political. It was about the fucking Joker movie. So this idea that it's just this free-for-all and there's no regulation of it and Facebook is just sitting on its hands and just letting it be the fucking wild, wild west is bullshit. And by the way, if that was the case, it'd actually be better. I think it'd be much better if it really was that free-for-all, if it really was a place of no censorship and every fucking crazy psycho with a fucking wild idea about what should be going on had their fucking say. Because I'm a free speech absolutist. I say, put it all out there. We accept the fact that you live in a fucking post-truth world and that really any idea of a concrete truth was always an illusion anyway. And just go swimming. Go swimming in the fucking plethora of crazy bullshit being peddled at you from various different factions. Just accept that you're never going to feel that good, comfy feeling of like, I know the real truth. That's gone. That's gone, and it's going to be gone forever because it never deserved to exist in the first place. Accept it. Accept that you live in a crazy world where you're never going to know what's real and you're never going to know what's fake and you're never going to have a solid grasp on anything. I mean, like, you're Sacha Baron Cohen, for fuck's sake. You're the guy who puts on crazy costumes and says wild shit. And, you just, you're a chameleon, dude. You know the fucking pliable nature of truth. You should know it better than anybody. So you fucking asking for, oh, please, return me to the days of just one solid truth. Well, guess what? In those days, that one solid truth, that shining beacon of truth on the hill was a lie. It was a lie. It was just one lie that everyone could have faith in, rather than a million lies from all different directions, and any sort of semblance of truth that's out there is just lost in the fucking sea of crazy bullshit. If you want some firm, hard truth, you're on the wrong fucking planet. You're a member of the wrong fucking species.
Second, Mark Zuckerberg claimed that new limits on what's posted on social media would be to pull back on free expression. This is utter nonsense. The First Amendment says that, and I quote, Congress shall make no law abridging freedom of speech. However, this does not apply to private businesses like Facebook.
Who cares? There's a difference between the First Amendment and freedom of speech, right? Freedom of speech is a concept that goes well beyond what's contained in the First Amendment. Freedom of speech is an idea, and it's a responsibility of all people to preserve freedom of speech if they believe in it, which I do. And that goes well beyond just like, well, Congress can't censor. But it's basically what you're trying to say is like, okay, well, the First Amendment says Congress can't censor us, but, I mean, Facebook should definitely censor us, and Twitter, I definitely want them to have the power to censor the conversation and control the narrative. Oh, and but by the way, the very platforms you're blaming for the current state of affairs, you want them to take more control. I mean, like, does that make sense to you? It doesn't make sense to me.
We're not asking these companies to determine the boundaries of free speech across society. We
Yes,
just
you
want
are.
them to be responsible on their platforms. Now, if a
Their platforms are society at this point, dipshit. I mean, your whole contention here is that these platforms have radically altered society. Well, that's because that's where people meet and congregate and discuss their ideas at this point. So asking them to curtail some speech that you don't like and to allow only this good speech that you do like is asking them to craft the narrative. You're asking them to take control over what's said. And at that point, you might as well just not even have social media. You might as well just go back to the days of old media where people read the newspaper and let the fucking William Randolph Hearst of the world tell people what's what.
neo-Nazi comes goose-stepping into a restaurant and starts threatening other customers and saying he wants to kill Jews, would the owner of the restaurant, a private business, be required to serve him an elegant 8-course meal? Of course not. The restaurant owner has every legal right, and indeed I would argue a moral obligation, to kick that Nazi out. And so do these internet companies.
No, they don't. No. That restaurant owner has no fucking obligation to kick that person out. They have the right. They have the right to kick that person out, but they don't have the obligation. If you want to serve a Nazi, that's your fucking business. And if the other people at the restaurant say, I'm not eating here because this dude serves Nazis, that's their fucking business. That's how the marketplace works there. But, how many times has that happened? I've been to a lot of restaurants in my life. I have yet to see one overt goose-stepping Nazi saunter in a fucking SS uniform and start threatening other patrons of the fucking establishment. Because you know what? Nazis are not typically this boogeyman caricature that you're making them out to be. You wouldn't know the difference between a Nazi and any fucking buddy else because they're going to do the same thing as everybody else. They're going to come in, they're going to sit at their table, they're going to eat their fucking, potato skins and fucking, spinach dip and whatever the fuck else. Eat their fucking mushroom Swiss burger and their fucking sweet potato fries. And they're going to fucking pay their check and they're going to fucking leave. And you're never going to know that they were a Nazi or that they're a virulent fucking homophobe or any of that shit. Because they're not probably advertising that. Because that's not what a restaurant is for. A restaurant is a place you go to eat. But social media is a place where you go to speak. And if that Nazi wants to use that platform to speak, then they have the right to do it, or they should. I don't know. I guess it's a topic of debate. What sort of rights anyone has on social media. And you could say, well, that's a private company. And so that company has the right to set up whatever standards it wants to. And I could see that point of view. But my point of view is that when a company like that becomes so big that, the president is using Twitter to communicate to the people of this country, and there's, I don't even know how many millions or Twitter users. Maybe there's over 1 billion. I don't even fucking know. But it's the platform of mass communication, as is Facebook to a lesser extent. I don't know. Maybe to a greater extent. I don't know what the fucking exact numbers are. YouTube, places like that. These are places where people go to speak their mind or to hear other people's minds spoken. And these are the mass communications platforms of our day. So should we really allow that to be cultivated by private business interests? Should we really allow those platforms to be wholly controlled and those narratives to be wholly controlled and what opinions are acceptable to express to be controlled by private business interests? Isn't that dangerous? I find that to be dangerous.
Now, third, Mark Zuckerberg seemed to equate regulation of companies like his to the actions of the most repressive societies. Incredible. This from one of the 6 people who decide what information so much of the world sees.
And you want to give him more power. You want to give him more power. You're here arguing that he should have more control over the narrative. But the idea is, well, he should have more control over the narrative, but ultimately it should be based on my sensibilities. So what's your position in all this? Like, why the fuck should billionaire Mark Zuckerberg, who created Facebook, bow to the whims of Sacha Baron Cohen and what he thinks is okay to say? Explain that one to me.
Zuckerberg at Facebook, Sundar Pichai at Google, at its parent company, Alphabet, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, Brin's ex-sister-in-law...
And by the way, if you're at the point of talking about regulation of Facebook and the kind of stuff that you can say on Facebook, that is Congress making a law curtailing freedom of speech. So at that point, it is a First Amendment issue. So fuck you and your disingenuous argument.
Susan Wojcicki at YouTube and Jack Dorsey at Twitter. The Silicon Six. All billionaires, all Americans who care more about boosting their share price than about protecting democracy.
Yeah, you seem super pro-democracy.
This is ideological imperialism. 6 unelected individuals in Silicon Valley imposing their vision on the rest of the world. Unaccountable.
I'm really fucking confused at this point because it seems like that's what you're advocating for. I mean, you're advocating for it in one breath, decrying it in the next breath. This whole speech just seems wildly fucking confused. I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about anymore, dude. Like, do you want these people to crack down on freedom of speech on their platforms or don't you? Because in one breath you do, in the next breath you're against it, and then in the next fucking sentence you'll be for it again. Like, what exactly do you even want?
To any government and acting like they're above the reach of law. It's like we're living in the Roman Empire and Mark Zuckerberg is Caesar. At least that would explain his haircut. Now, here's an idea. Instead of letting the Silicon Six decide the fate of the world, let our elected representatives, voted for by the people of every democracy in the world, have at least some say.
Then that's Congress. That's Congress fucking abridging the right of the fucking free press. Social media is still media. So Congress is not supposed to curtail the right of people to speak. So saying that we need to have Congress, like we need to have our lawmakers come in and tell these platforms what kind of speech is allowed on their platform, that's against the First Amendment. Right? So I don't know why you mentioned, you mentioned earlier in the speech that it's okay for Facebook to censor people because that's only Congress can't do that. But now you're saying that Congress should make Facebook do that. So you're basically saying Congress can curtail free speech as long as they do it through a proxy. What? You fucking psycho? I mean, goddamn. I never knew Borat was such a nitwit. Fuck you, dude.
Fourth, Zuckerberg speaks of welcoming a diversity of ideas. And last year he gave us an example. He said that he found posts denying the Holocaust deeply offensive, but he didn't think Facebook should take them down because I think there are things that different people get wrong. At this very moment, there are still Holocaust deniers on Facebook, and Google still takes you to the most repulsive Holocaust denial sites with a simple click. One of the heads of Google, in fact, told me that these sites just show both sides of the issue. This is madness. To quote Edward R. Murrow, one cannot accept that there are on every story 2 equal and logical sides to an argument. We have, unfortunately, millions of pieces of evidence for the Holocaust. It is an historical fact.
Yeah, but if someone wants to say it wasn't, I mean, they have the right to do that, don't they? I mean, why shouldn't they? Why shouldn't they? People have the right to say there's a God, even though there isn't, and there clearly isn't. If you just tell people, hey, you're not allowed to believe anything crazy anymore. You're not allowed to believe anything that's wrong. I mean, there's a whole host of things that people believe that are wrong. Like, you seem to believe that Congress, regulating what speech is allowed on Facebook is not a First Amendment violation, even though it fucking is. So should I be able to censor you since you're wrong, dipshit? People are allowed to be wrong. Being wrong is still part of fucking freedom of speech. No one is sitting here saying that, Holocaust denial and belief in the fact of the Holocaust are equally true, equally valid. But what is being said is that the people who are idiots, by the way, who deny the Holocaust and probably deny it because they're racist, bigoted pieces of shit, have every right to be racist, bigoted pieces of shit who believe something that's wrong and stupid. Because plenty of people believe wrong, stupid things. I'm sure I believe some wrong, stupid things. You definitely believe some wrong, stupid things. Everybody believes some wrong, stupid things. We can't, and if you give these companies the power to decide that they can censor, okay, well, this doesn't meet with the standards of fact checking. You think that's not going to be abused? You think that there's you don't think there's going to be all kinds of, all of a sudden, all these facts, well, now it's a fact that Israel is a good country and they've never done any human rights violations. And anyone who says they have done human rights violations, that's a conspiracy theory, and that's that. So basically, just let the people in positions of power dictate reality and censor any sort of alternative point of view. Now, I agree that there's some instances where it's totally clear what the truth is, and there's still people who deny it because they're idiots. But, I think we're better off allowing that than giving companies the power to, quote-unquote, fact-check everything that's posted online, which, by the way, even if I did agree that that was a good idea in principle, it would still be completely untenable logistically. Like, how the fuck could you possibly fact check everything posted on social media? You can't. You fucking can't. I mean, it's ridiculous. It would be an entire new industry that would have to be devoted just to fact-checking social media. And even then, they're not always going to get it right.
And denying it is not some random opinion. Those who deny the Holocaust aim to encourage another one. Still, Zuckerberg says that people should decide what is credible, not tech companies. But at a time when 2/3 of millennials say that they haven't even heard of Auschwitz, how are they supposed to know what's credible? How are they supposed to know that the lie is a lie?
All right, well, if they've never even heard of Auschwitz, what's the likelihood that they're reading Holocaust denial shit? I mean, they're probably fucking looking at Kim Kardashian's ass or reading the latest fucking Kanye tweet. You know what I mean? Like, if they're so blithely fucking dumb and stupid that they've never even fucking heard of Auschwitz, that Auschwitz is not even on their fucking radar, what's the odds that they're going out looking for Holocaust denial material? Because I can tell you one thing about everyone who fucking has a Holocaust denial page. They all have heard of Auschwitz. So, I don't know what you're fucking talking about there.
There is such a thing as objective truth. Facts do exist. And if these internet companies really want to make a difference, they should hire enough monitors to actually monitor.
How many would that be? Like 20 million people? 30 million? I don't know. I don't even know how many people it would take to actually do the level of monitoring that you're talking about.
Work closely with groups like the ADL and the NAACP, insist on facts, and purge these lies and conspiracies from their platforms. Now, fifth.
Dude, Sacha Baron Cohen is a fucking lunatic. There's a fact for you. It's an objective fact that this motherfucker is insane. What the fuck? This guy's a fucking fascist. You want to talk about Nazis? Here's one right here. Maybe he doesn't have the bigotry of a Nazi, but he certainly has the fucking authoritarian tendencies of one. I can tell you that much.
When discussing the difficulty of removing content, Mark Zuckerberg asked...
By the way, I mean, like, if we want to get really fucking philosophical with it, Is there really an objective reality? Because I don't think there is. Because there's no proof that solipsism isn't true. Maybe I'm just a fucking brain in a jar somewhere. And this is all this is all just a fucking dream I'm having. And there is no Sacha Baron Cohen. You know? Maybe none of this is real. Maybe not even one molecule of this supposed universe exists. Now, I'm not saying I believe that, but I can't disprove that. And, if I can't even prove that reality exists, and science can't even prove that it exists, then how the fuck is there any sort of objective fact? I mean, beyond like the fucking cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. That's the only that's fucking Descartes. Descartes' one truth that he could fucking figure out in his famous thought experiment. The only thing he could be certain of the existence of was his own consciousness. Now, modern neuroscience maybe has some issues with that statement. But ultimately, philosophically, I think it makes a good point. Beyond my own, I know that I am perceiving something. But I don't know that what I'm perceiving is reality. If even by the fucking definitions of science, I know that the reality that I live in is a construct of my own brain. That, is just a representation of reality. I basically live in a model of the world constructed by my head based on what sensory data I'm able to fucking, assimilate. But that's if that's even true. That's if I'm not just a brain in a vat whose entire reality is a dream. Which I don't know that that's not true. I don't think that's true. But once again, I can't disprove it. So if we're going to go on like that crazy of a fucking philosophical level, is there really an objective truth? I mean, maybe I'm going off the rails here. In fact, I'm pretty certain I am. But if you're going to just state to me, like, there's an objective reality, there's facts. Well, yeah, not necessarily, man. Not fucking necessarily.
Where do you draw the line? Yes, drawing the line can be difficult.
All right, I'll tell you where to draw the line. Draw the line up your fucking ass. Draw your line, draw it with a big point at the end, and then shove it straight up your useless fucking ass. Because you're a fucking cocksucker, dude. I mean, Jesus. I'm so glad I sped this up. Because I think how long have I talked about this motherfucking shit? I suspected I would have tapped out by now, but man, this is bad. This has got to be one of the worst speeches I've ever heard in my life. If you want to hear an actual good speech against bigotry, go look at Charlie Chaplin's speech from The Great Dictator. There's someone who actually conveyed some of these ideas without being a fascist prick and actually was inspirational in doing it. Not this fucking guy. This guy basically is just like, people are dumb and can't be trusted, and that's why we need authoritarian big brother to watch over us and make sure we don't believe any wrong think.
But here's what he's really saying. Removing more of these lies and conspiracies is just too expensive. These are the richest companies in the world, and they have the best engineers in the world. They could fix these problems if they wanted to. Twitter could deploy an algorithm to remove more white supremacist hate speech, but they have reportedly haven't because it would eject some very prominent politicians from their platform. Maybe that wouldn't be such a bad thing. The truth is, these companies won't fundamentally change because their entire business model.
There have been plenty, by the way, of white supremacists kicked off of these platforms. There's anti-hate speech provisions on Twitter where, plenty of people have been kicked off the fucking platform for saying racially insensitive things. Overt racism is not allowed on Twitter. So it's just, once again, a misrepresentation of what the platform is actually about. I'm not saying there's not people out there who skirt the rules. Clearly there are. But, I'm just fatigued with this. What do you think? Move on? Can I move on? Do I have the chat's permission to move on from this? Because, man, I don't think I could take any more. Jesus. You could have seen this video and plenty more like it a lot sooner if you were a member of the Pessimist Productions Patreon. We are one of the top Patreons on the entire website, despite being of a relatively smaller size than a lot of the people who have comparable Patreons. And that's because we make sure to take care of our patrons extra special good. We really fucking work that shit. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we keep that content coming. Just like you think oh, I've had enough content. We're like, bullshit. You're going to have more content. That's how we do it. That's our philosophy. Stuff the audience. We just more. Take it. So yeah, join up. It's cool stuff. You should do it.